This is a real celebration. It took us a long time to get to where we are now. I mean, I go back in time and I look at myself and I say, who is that over there? It's 20 years ago. Good gracious. But no, it's truly been a labor of love. As you know, this is one of these brownfield deals, and we had to go through a lot of different things to get it done. But what it took was real partners, real people who saw the vision of what we wanted to do in the North Richmond community, came together with a memorandum of understanding and this was one of the projects. And we knew when we visioned it that it was going to take a long time because, you know, there was a lot of tanks in the ground and under the ground and, you know, everywhere else. And we had to do some well monitoring and things of that nature. And there was a stop and goes, you know, different, you know, eras of time where, you know, we went through different economic issues. But this project still stayed committed and people stayed committed to it. It went through as much as you can think and then some, but we're here. And I want to welcome to this. And I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder because there's a lot of thunder to be stole. But I want to bring up Marina Brown, who is basically a board member, been our board member for over 20 years. So she saw it go and move from there. And she's also on the neighborhood council for the city of Richmond. Marina.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. First, I want to share this. All of you are here because we are so excited about this project. You know, it is the season of Christmas, and when you think about what you ask Santa for and what's on your wish list, and then you think about what could be under the tree for you, and you are so excited when that moment comes that you get to unwrap or open a gift. This is what this is for us here in North Richmond. We are so excited about this gift. Those of you who have labored, Joanna, I know in the beginning, baby, you birthed out this baby. It was some work. Cherie, the city of Richmond, you all, CHDC, but I remember the times we went through writing the support letters, supporting you all, and here we are finally, 22 years. I know just recently we had a meeting and somebody said, well, I was on the 4th grade when this thing was thought about. I wasn't. So here we are. Again, we want to welcome you all, and just to talk about this project, when you think about what goes on here in North Richmond was this community, neighborhood, and I'm gonna speak for my parents, because they were African Americans and they had to purchase property here in North Richmond because what was going on in the city of Richmond being redlined. And here we are in this marginalized community. But what this project does, these 42 units, provides a housing opportunity for the unhoused. There's units designated for the mental ill, mental health units. That's something, especially when you think about everybody that is unhoused or homeless. It's not always drug afflicted. It could be because they're trying to battle or cope with their mental illness. So guess what? We have a unit. We have housing that will be for that population. But yet we have some families that will benefit. First-time homeowners, CHDC, thank you. When you think about Eaton Housing, how long have we been a partner with you all? Forever. Remember Chesley? I did your resident services. Hey, we in this marriage forever together, okay? But just when you think about the labor, and being a product of this community when I was a child in that very space, that was a grocery store. It was a family market owned by an Italian family. We became friends with that family, those owners. And what they did for this community, they provided credit when people could not afford to pay for their groceries. You could go to Pete, you could go to Evelyn, and your groceries, you don't have to worry about food security. It's taken care of. And sometimes people would not have money to pay their bill, they would write it off. That's how loving when you think about what people do, when people come together and they take care of one another. But then I also think about when the property was purchased by the Dixons, they revitalized that family market. It was also a liquor store. It was a family market and a liquor store in that spot, and there was a duplex, and then Miss Watson and her husband, they purchased the smaller portion on the side that's next to the gas station that provided economic means because it was a cleaners. So people got the opportunity to work. So when you think about the mixed use concept, you think about housing, you think about economics, you think about the grocery store. All of that rolled together creates family. It creates community. So we're grateful. And I'm so excited. I'm like the child that cannot wait to open the gift because 22 years, and when I think about what that spot, that land used to be, and now it's going to be housing. It's going to be beautiful. So when you come into the entry of North Richmond, you get to see CHDC, Eaton Housing, what has been developed on Fred Jackson Way. You know, as a moment of libation, let's just remember the spirit of Mr. Fred Jackson. He was a community advocate. I remember when the street was Filbert Street. Remember the project was Filbert Townhouses at one time, so now it's the Legacy Court. We done been through some things. But here we are, 22 years later, and I'm still the child that's so excited about the gift that's under the tree, this gift. So, with that being said, on behalf of CHDC and Eaton Housing, I would also like to thank our event sponsors. Now, if I chop your name up, please don't charge it to anything. Don't charge it to anything. Just charge it to the moment. So that's Steve Kadama, James E. Roberts Obashi Corporation, First Citizens Bank. Are there any other sponsors that I'm leaving out and not recognizing? Oh, for the event. We want to say thank you. It's a beautiful event, even though we're not outside, but we're inside. And for this moment, we are very gracious and thankful for that. So our gratitude to you. We're grateful. Okay, so now we're going to be hearing from several individuals today who were critical in helping make this project happen. And thank you again for being here today. And I also need to introduce my co-member from the Eaton Board, Jim, where are you, Jim? I'm calling you to the front. I'm good, sir. How are you? And happy holidays. All right. I've served with Jim on the board of Eaton Housing for quite some time. Now he's going to take over the show. Go with it, Jim.
All right.
You're on.
I'll be very short. When you try to summarize not just 22 years, but I've been working with the North Richmond community for almost 50 years. I came to Contra Costa County in 1976, and one of my first assignments was to start trying to do housing here in North Richmond. We had a ramp. Took a while to get up the ramp, but we did get lots of things done. One of the most critical things that we got accomplished was the establishment of CHDC North Richmond. Without a vehicle for doing projects in North Richmond, we would have never been able to get things accomplished. And we have. Community Heritage Apartments, senior apartments, Community Point, across the street from it, Chesley Mutual, Parkway Estates, and now Legacy, all housing projects that have flourished with CHDC. So my congratulations to all of you who've participated and contributed, and Don, I'll leave it to you to introduce the next.
Thank you, Jim. You certainly have played your part in making these accomplishments happen. You know, this development took, you know, the community support too. Whenever we had to go to the city council, whenever we had to go to the board of supervisors, we took our community with us. And part of our community is the churches that are here as well. And I'm very happy for Pastor Mitchell for extending his hospitality to get us out the rain. So that's what they do. They do what they do to support community, and I'm happy to have Pastor Mitchell come up and give a blessing to what we're trying to do. Thank you, Pastor.
To Mr. Gilmore and to CHDC, CHCC, CHDC, and Eden Housing, thank you very much for this chance to come up and say, look at what God has done. Amen. North Richmond has been in this community for 105 years. Amen. And we are happy to be a part of what's taking place. So, if you don't mind, please come and bow with me. Lord, today we simply say thank you, thank you, thank you for the dream that has come true, for the vision that has been realized. We thank you, Lord, for what has taken place. We know it took a lot of work, took a lot of sweat equity. It took a lot of people sacrificing. But we thank you. Now, Father, we pray that as the building began, that you would continue to be a blessing to all those who had part in seeing this done in this community. Once again, we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
So CHCC didn't do this alone. You can tell that by now, a whole bunch of people, but our relationship with Eden goes back further than 20 years. And it also goes back when a time where there was no BIPOC pool to go in for development, and people were not being able to participate in community-based development in a way that was more comprehensive. And so we're happy for our relationship. Linda, why don't you come on up?
So I have been working with Don since I moved to California in 1996. My very first project was the Community Heritage Project. So in my family, which is Italian Marina, we love the number 22, even though I think 22 years to build any project is insane. But 22, for those of you who don't know, in numerology is the number of people who want to change the world for the better. And nowhere have we experienced that here as we have in this partnership. I came from community development in Boston, and this project for Eden has been a long-term investment in community development. And all of you here today are why we're standing here. And so I really appreciate that. John Joya knows, he's heard from me like 22,000 times about the very many projects in 20 years, right? But really, we're really grateful. Don and I are gonna do a little Sonny and Cher and trade off on our introductions today. So I'm gonna hand it back to Don.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Is the mayor here? Is the mayor here? Is the mayor here? Okay. So now I'm going to introduce an integral player in all this, who is kind of the person that worked hand in hand to focus on North Richmond, and over a number of different years and a number of different projects and programs that he championed and encouraged and supported in a number of different ways. But I want to have John Joya come up and have a few remarks, but he's truly one of our warriors and one of our champions for North Richmond. John.
It is really great to see all of you here because, you know, over the past 25 years that I've had the honor of representing North Richmond on the Board of Supervisors, you know, we get together and we celebrate all of these events, but it's really all about, as others have said, the work we do for the community. And I wish these projects would take less time. I mean, that's the one thing we always acknowledge, and I know with our legislators here, they are working hard in Sacramento, so these projects can happen quicker. and we appreciate that. I'm proud that Contra Costa County invested nearly $7 million into this project, being the largest public agency partner. But really, the reason there's a long list of speakers is because all of us, all of you, have had a major role in making this happen. And you know, what we try to do on all these projects is to not just create something that looks nice, but create a home for people of all different income backgrounds. And I am really proud that this project also has units reserved for those who are either at risk of homelessness or have been homeless. And we have been working on that in almost every project that we support. And I'm proud that the health department is also part of providing services, supportive services, on-site services for individuals who live in these types of projects to live in this one. You know, many years ago, the city and county came together, and you know, Fred Jackson Way had two names. It was Filbert and 3rd Street, depending where you were. And we said, we remember this, Marina, we need to stop that. We're working together, the city and the county, and we proposed naming it after Fred Jackson. And so the city and county both changed the name of their respective streets to be Fred Jackson Way, which is, I think, symbolic of the partnership we have on these projects. And I want to acknowledge Dawn and Linda are both executive directors of amazing nonprofit housing developers, and you've partnered on a number, but I want to specifically call out Dawn, because Dawn, we get a chance to talk and work together a lot. And your board, your staff, your volunteers, your work has really been key. And at the center, it's been the common theme through all of these projects. And we're looking forward to do more. We're focused on building a grocery store that does not serve alcohol and tobacco in North Richmond. We've allocated funding, there's federal dollars. And that's the next one we're going to really celebrate, because this community deserves that. So thank you all for having a major role and a major part in this.
So, Maria, you were talking about Christmas. You know, you guys have heard sometimes people celebrate Christmas in July. Well, last year I celebrated Christmas in September because out of the blue I got a phone call from former Senator Skinner. Do you call you Senator Emeritus? Is that how this works? We weren't sure what your total title was, but she calls me up. She goes, I might have a little money in the budget. Do you have a project that needs anything special? And I'm like, okay, how much money are you talking about? And she really did save the day by finding $3 million in the state budget for this project when we were just trying to figure out how to get it over the starting line. And that was just one of the many things she did as senator. She is one of my housing heroes, passing a number of pieces of legislation that expedite the approval of housing, limiting the number of hearings to less than 5, which was like a small miracle in the life of a California developer, among other things. She has helped us with anti-NIMBY legislation, chairing the budget, making sure housing got funded, because this stuff does not happen without investment from the state of California. So Nancy, I am just so glad that you could be here and also introduce us to your successor. But just to say a huge thank you on behalf of all of us. If you hadn't given us that grant, we would not be here today. It would be another 2 years. So thank you.
Thank you, Linda, for kind introduction. Look, housing is a crisis in California, as you know, and many of those homeless folks, unhoused people, when we mention, you know, I mean, it's not that very, very, very many, and I'm sure we all know, we all have someone we know. They're neither drug addicted nor mentally ill. There but for fortune go any of us. You get evicted, and maybe your finances aren't great, any number of things, and you can't get a place around here. You know, it's expensive, and we don't have enough housing, and we haven't built enough, and we need more of the housing that's subsidized. And when I say subsidized, the only housing that's affordable is subsidized. So that means people like me and Supervisor Joya and Senator Jesse Arreguín, who's going to be in the seat I held, or not going to be, is already sworn in, and of course Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, all of them, and then that mic doesn't like me. I'll stand here. You can hear me? The mic's picking up enough? Okay. Anyway, we depend on the Community Housing Development Corporation, Eden, good folks like yourselves, everybody else who supported this to do these kind of projects. And they absolutely should not take 22 years, but it's not any of your fault. Not your fault. You have worked so hard to do it. So you've got to let us know, and I say us, I'm not going to be in the role, I'm not in the role anymore, but please, let these other folks know what we have to do to eliminate any remaining obstacles so that it doesn't take 22 years, so that we can provide the housing that is needed. So I made it a priority. I was fortunate to be budget chair during the time when California had a lot of money, and we were allowed as individual members, and my colleague Assemblymember Wicks knows this, we were allowed a certain number of personal budget asks. And so all of mine I put towards housing, towards the Black Panther Project next to West Oakland BART Station, the Native American Health Center's workforce housing, lifelongs housing for unhoused seniors in Alameda, Lau Project housing, you name it, Eden's in this. So I did whatever I could to get units open and operating. And I'm so glad to be here. I appreciate all of your good work and all of the people who supported it and worked on it, and your dedication for those number of years. Thank you. Keep it up. We'll do better.
Well, I certainly have big shoes to fill, but I am deeply committed to continuing Senator Skinner's amazing leadership on affordable housing, housing production, addressing homelessness, and delivering the resources for Richmond and for Senate District 7. And I know we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the efforts of many people, many of whom are assembled here today, but once again, I just want to give special recognition to Senator Skinner. This is just one of many, many things that she was able to accomplish, not just in terms of the state budget, but in terms of passing groundbreaking laws that have removed barriers to producing new housing in California. She has been a champion of housing policy, has helped secure funding for many affordable housing projects throughout the East Bay, and let's give her another round of applause. I want to also just thank Eden, a vital partner in our collective mission to deliver affordable housing to Californians. I think in total, you've developed or acquired 12,000 units of housing throughout the state. And we look forward to many more projects to come. And then Community Housing Development Corporation, another key partner in building affordable housing in the Bay Area, including partnering with some of our churches in the city of Berkeley to redevelop faith property for affordable housing. Just want to acknowledge your work, not just here in Richmond, but the expanding portfolio you're having here in the East Bay as well. So look, I don't need to tell you why a project like this is so important. The cost of housing is not going down. We see more people living on the streets due to housing insecurity. For me, this issue is deeply personal as a lifelong renter and as somebody who faced eviction and homelessness at one point in my life. That's why I've been such a fierce champion as the former mayor of Berkeley and on the Berkeley City Council to build thousands of units of affordable housing and to increase housing production. And it will be a core focus and mission of my work as your next state senator in the California State Senate. We know that housing first works. We know what the solution to homelessness is. It's building homes. It's getting people connected to supportive services. And so that's why I'm so excited about this project, not just providing deeply affordable housing, but having housing that is reserved for people that are or were formerly homeless. That's going to have such a transformative impact on these people's lives. 13 units reserved for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. Imagine what impact that's going to have. So we know we need more projects like this. We know that we need to all work together to help make this happen, and I'm very committed to working in partnership with you to achieve that. I'm already at work. My first bill that I had introduced on the first day of swearing in is focused on housing production. Ironically, it's called SB 9, and it's focused on trying to remove barriers, existing regulatory barriers to producing new accessory dwelling units in the state of California. That's the first of many bills that I hope to introduce in the coming weeks, focused on housing production and housing affordability. So I look forward to working with all of our partners here today and the community and finding new opportunities to expand affordable housing, to create housing stability for families like mine who ended up on the street, who were not able to find an affordable place to live, and to work to reduce homelessness. Know at the state of California, you have a committed partner working with you, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to celebrate with you today. Thank you.
I'm excited to have my other superhero housing legislator here today, also my personal legislator, Buffy Wicks, who has been relentless in her pursuit of not just ways to make housing get built faster, but ways to invest in affordable housing. We live in a boom and bust cycle in California when it comes to funding with the budgets, and Buffy has really been carrying that torch for us, trying to figure out how are we going to invest more in affordable housing. It took us, what did you say in that budget hearing? 30 years to dig ourselves into this hole, and we have a lot of investment to dig ourselves out. So Buffy, we're super glad you could join us today.
Oh, I'm trying not to make the mic make funny noises here. How y'all doing? How's everyone feeling? Good. I know. I feel good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Before I talk a little bit about the policy work and the budget work that I'm committed to, I know Jesse is, and we stand on the shoulder of giants, Nancy Skinner. I want to tell you a little bit about why I care about this issue, because I think for so many of us, it is deeply personal. I think many of you know, I grew up in a trailer. I don't come from a lot. My parents didn't have any wealth. I grew up in the Sierra Nevadas, and when I was a little kid, I was really embarrassed that I grew up in a trailer, and I didn't want to invite friends over, and I was really insecure about it. And as I got older, and my parents pushed me, and I got good grades, and I went to community college, and then I transferred to a four-year school, and I had access to the ladder up, right? And I realized over time that that trailer allowed me to have a roof over my head, a stable roof over my head. That trailer allowed me to study, allowed me to focus on those types of things. It allowed me to go to community college. It allowed me to work for President Obama for 6 years. It allowed me to run for this seat. It allowed me to, when I won in 2018, go be the housing chair. It allowed me to now be the appropriations chair. It allowed me to do the work that I do. Because that trailer provided for me housing security, a roof over my head, that for so many people, especially our brown and black friends and family and neighbors, those opportunities are not afforded to them. And so it is projects like this that give me so much hope about what we are building in our communities. And we are doing this, all of us together in common purpose, to fix this issue that plagues us, this issue of homelessness, of families, of people living on our streets. That is unacceptable in our community. And I know that the only way we get through this is when we all act together, when it's our local partners, our local city leaders, our county leaders, our state leaders, our federal leaders here, with our churches, our nonprofit leaders, our community members, all of us saying, enough is enough. We will house everyone in our community. And that is what this is about. And so when we're up in Sacramento, we talk a lot about policy, and we talk about RENA goals, and we talk about, who's funding what and what agencies are doing what. And we talk about HCD and all the different things that are out there, right? This whole big thing. But what this is about, this isn't just 42 units. This is 42 families. These are people who are going to move into this house, into having a roof over their head, so their kids can have the ladder of opportunity, so those kids can go to community college, so those kids can go work in the White House one day. That's what we're talking about. And so for as long as I'm in this role, and I'm now legislatively middle-aged, I've been elected for 6 years, and hopefully I'll have 6 more years. But as long as I'm in this role now, I'm focused like a laser in my twilight legislative years of this specific issue being the most important issue that I am going to work on, of more money for housing projects like this. We're going to get a bond on the ballot in the next 2 years for $10 billion more for housing. And we're going to streamline. 22 years is unacceptable. It should have taken a couple years max to get this done, right? And it's because the state has made it too hard. The state has made it. We made policy choices for decades that got us to where we are. We're going to fix those. We're going to fix those. I'm committed to that. I'm honored to be here. I appreciate the work of everyone who has come together. I want to go to thousands of more groundbreakings, right? That's what we want to do while we're here. And ribbon cuttings when our families can move in. So thank you so much for everyone who was a part of this, a true community journey. I stand with you side by side. And by the way, you know, I don't have a monopoly on the good ideas. We're looking for the good ideas. You all are the ones out here fixing this problem. So come to me, come to Jesse, come to others, and give us your ideas on how we can make better policy choices so that we can house everyone in our communities. Thank you.
Poor Buffy, she asked me in the ladies' room at Housing California and what she could do in the next legislative session, and my chief operating officer, Shola, said, "Were you meeting with Buffy in the ladies' room?" I was like embarrassed to admit that we were actually talking policy, but sad. It's sad when you're me. Anyways, our next speaker is someone who I have on speed dial, poor guy. I regularly call him because I think there's no single acronym that Eden Housing has not used in the state of California, or a single program that we haven't used. So the Department of Housing and Community Development is such a critical partner for us. They are the investor in the NPLH acronym here today, No Place Like Home, because we know that there really is no place like home. And so I was thrilled that Gustavo Velasquez could join us. So Gustavo.
Thank you, Linda. Good morning, buenos dias. Afternoon, I'm sorry, afternoon. I'm thrilled to be here. I have to say, Don and Linda are two of our favorite people in Sacramento, people like me that administer funding programs, that are part of the complex regulatory process, you know, changing things to make, hopefully, things easier, faster, better for mission-driven developers. But more favorite doesn't mean necessarily easier. I mean, they help us so much to understand what mission-driven developers are struggling with day in and day out. And that helped us sort of navigate the complex rules of all of these funding programs. In addition to being director of HCD, I also serve on the tax credit allocation committee. This project has 9% tax credits on it, and it's very hard, but I don't think it's as hard as it used to. I mean, 20 years, extremely, extremely hard times. There were times where minority developers, like Don's, CHDC, would not be able to compete because they didn't have the experience. They couldn't share a developer fee with more experienced developers to do business, mission-driven business, and now we have regulations that allow nearly, 10% of the $4 billion bond cap to be used for partnerships like this. And Eden was doing this without being on regulation many, many years ago, and sharing this, really had the foresight to establish partnerships like this one today. And now we have all of this and many other things in regulation that help developers that have been for so many years, decades in minority communities, ensure that they have a stake in the very complex affordable housing financing system in the communities that they are trying to protect housing, so that no longer we have massive amounts of displacements as the ones that we are seeing in communities around the Bay Area and near the Bay Area. So this is something really to celebrate. I also would like to add that some of these units have permanent supportive housing in them. I have to say, I am meeting with a lot of developers across the state of California that are increasingly wary about doing permanent supportive housing because the complexities of cost and it's very, very, there are so many pain points in the process of building permanent supportive housing, especially cost. But I have to say, on behalf, I think, of everybody that is in Sacramento working on a statewide housing policy, permanent supportive housing continues to be essential in the mix of all of the types of affordable housing that we need. We actually have right now more than $2 billion that the governor announced last week for permanent supportive housing. Many units, many more units, like 13 of the 42 units in this project for people experiencing homelessness with behavioral health challenges. And that's what the additional $2 billion on the Proposition 1 is for. So I am here also to do a little bit of commercial. Implore counties, Contra Costa, Richmond, cities, to think about partnerships and really use this to take these 12 units that will be built here and make many, many more in this county. It is very important that we support the efforts with financing for what the governor has called the crisis of our time, homelessness, especially paired with people who are experiencing high acuity levels, highly complex behavioral health challenges. So I just want to say to this project, to all the partnerships, 42 units is really about celebrating one unit at a time, like Assemblymember Wick said. It's families, so it's really one home at a time. And thank you to all the partners that have contributed to making this possible.
Thank you, Gustavo. So, Congressman Garamendi came to North Richmond, I think it's about a year and a half ago, 2 years. And we were embarking on doing some work, and I think John mentioned it, the grocery store. He articulated every little detail in systemic issues that he understood our plight. And not only did he understand it, but he actually went after earmarks for us to be able to build this grocery store. And also asked us to do more because this is the type of community that has all the parts and had faced all the barriers that he wanted to try and champion. And so he's not here today, but I'm happy to introduce Harpreet Sidhu, who will talk on his behalf. Sandy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, Congressman is literally on a plane right now, going back to DC at the moment. And you're right, Don, and to Eden House, congratulations. It is poignant that it's bad weather outside. That means that there are people out there who are without a roof over their head. And thank you, Senator Skinner, Assemblywoman, and Jesse, to bring in the money on the state level, to be able to put housing, to be able to give a roof over their head on places and days like this. So, Congressman, as you mentioned, we start describing places as deserts. We have a desert of grocery stores in this area. So it's so amazing that we're working together to bring monies for this housing and to bring together a place where we can get good food, the right food. And I had a chance to meet HUD in the audience today just last month. HUD, it's amazing that when you trust an organization such as Community Housing, Eden Housing, to be able to do these funding, it makes it easier for people to give funding for that organization. They received $15.92 million to be able to renovate the Nystrom housing area. So Pullman, sorry, I apologize. To Pullman, another one of those amazing housing in the area that was left behind. Congressman always talks about what's left behind in our communities. That's what we have to work for, and you have done that. And so he is so thankful to be able to be here in this community to be able to do that. Something was mentioned about Fred Jackson earlier. Fred and I worked on together as many commissions, and I encourage you to read a wonderful book he wrote about bouquet. And this is what represents this community. We have a wonderful bouquet of people and ethnicities and cultures. So Fred, and this is so poignant, Supervisor, you're right, this street deserves as you move to make this happen. So thank you for that. So as we move forward, housing. Buffy, Honorable Assemblywoman, talked about housing for students. We literally had a phone call this morning, and looking forward to the next agenda, it's going to be tough. And we are also going to move forward to bringing housing for junior college students. And because we talk about state colleges and universities have housing, but not perhaps for junior colleges. So Contra Costa College, Los Medanos, DVC. So we will hopefully bring housing for students as well. So we thank you. We will work what we can to bring what funding we can to the community, and congratulations on behalf of the Congressman. Thank you very much.
So we're looking for the mayor to be here, but we have the city manager for the city of Richmond, Sasha Kura, who has been a real partner with CHDC forever in being able to do work in Richmond. And she surely has the spirit of cooperation and getting things done. So Sasha, I'm glad you could be here to have some words.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to start by saying thank you to everyone here. As I look around the room, I can see so many people who have dedicated their professional careers and a lot of their personal time to trying to make our community better. And I just want you to know that I personally, as well as all the residents, appreciate your dedication. There was a point at which Joseph knows the story all too well when we were working with the Housing Authority, and I could just say folks like the Contra Costa Housing Authority have stepped up to help us immensely when we were struggling. Also want to thank our partners at the state because of not only this funding, but we have nearly 4,000 affordable housing units throughout Richmond. And without the state of California and your support around ERF and your support around HomeKey, that we're really making a difference. And we know the point in time count isn't perfect, right? It's not a census, it's a point in time. But because of the work and the great collaboration from Congressman DeSaulnier, from Supervisor Joya, from Assemblymember Wicks, and everyone here, and I apologize if I'm inadvertently forgetting anyone, folks like CHDC are able to help us do better. And so just wanted to thank you that the work that you're doing here is transformative, and we're able to be a leader here in the Bay Area because of your commitment to our success here in Richmond and helping serve our residents. So just wanted to say thank you to everyone involved with this project. CHDC and Eden are actually up for another project. So tomorrow night, they're gonna be presenting to our city council on Nystrom, because that's like the last one I need to check off my list. So no pressure, okay, Dawn? To do well tomorrow night at the city council meeting. And just, again, thank you all for being here and coming out in the rain. We really appreciate you.
Well, another one of our superpowers persons and entity that works with us, Joseph Villarreal, who basically was brought to us by another housing authority person in Oakland to be on our board. And we didn't know much about him, but he came with a lot of great recommendations from somebody else. And he got right in there and started working. And that was before he even came over to the housing authority for Contra Costa County. So he knew firsthand what we were trying to do in our mission. He was on our board for about 10 years, was it? I don't know, something like that. Yeah, and then he got busy and stepped down for a minute, and he didn't want to be in conflict with what we were doing, so he said it's better to serve outside of the board and just serve the community of North Richmond. And so with that work, he's able to help us in our mission of, I'm telling you, project-based Section 8 helps a lot, and so wish we had more to do that, but Joseph, come have a few words.
Thank you, Don. Is that me? Okay. So project-based vouchers. So when I came here, as all of you know, I mean, it's hard to do affordable housing anyway, but relatively speaking, I came from the Oakland Housing Authority, the City of Oakland. Tony Yusufari, who many of you know, who runs our project-based voucher program, he came from the city of San Francisco. I actually met him, trying to pick his brain in the late 90s, early 2000s about how do you do this program. It was relatively easy to do there versus here. The public money is just very thin, tax base is different, et cetera. So when I came here, I knew that we had to use project-based vouchers and we were going to try to max them out. So we have 64 project-based voucher projects so far. I think we've committed about $2 billion. We do maximum commitments of 40 years. We go straight to the top because we know how hard it is for these guys to make it happen in year 20 and 30 and 40. And frankly, we don't want it to look like our public housing looks in years 20, 30, 40, 50. We'll be converting that to project-based vouchers. And part of why I had to step down is we're doing a project a few blocks away that hopefully we can partner with these guys in the future. So I do want to thank the city of Richmond. Like Sasser said, we've been talking to them for, I think, 15 years on this project. Not quite 20 plus, but 15 years. The county, one of the things we did when we came here is we tied our process, our project-based vouchers to projects that the county did. So Jim Kennedy and I started talking when I first came here. He and my father worked together on some of the same work. Kristen Shirk, I know, is here still working for the county. So we partner with them, the city of Richmond. We have 64 project-based voucher projects. 16 of them, 25%, are either with Eden, CHDC, or both. So they are like huge core partners for us. If you get Nystrom, we'll be with you on that because we're working with the city on that. And I know Ed Cabrera is here from HUD. You probably don't know yet, but we've been talking to Gerard and Trevor because we are already on paper going to be hitting our, in partnership with Richmond, our 30% cap, so we're going to try to get to 40 or 45%. So I want to thank you all, and Ed, help us. And I forgot, because I think he left it to me. I do want to thank Supervisor Joya, who also sits on our board. He sits on the county board and our board, and has always been supportive of our projects.
So way back when we first started this project, there was a gas station that was abandoned. It was an eyesore to the community. And so we applied for an EPA grant to basically do something really small, we thought, was to, take care of whatever was there and then move on. Needless to say that we didn't know that once we start digging, we would find more tanks. And we would find some in the street, and we would find some. So it went on like that. So, and after, 2 or 3 years of monitoring the wells, it became, ready to do. But that first grant came from EPA, and it started the process moving forward. And I'm happy that we have Marianne Tasnif Abbasi. Is she here? Yes, there she goes. Come forward and have some statements. A great partner with us. And they had grant money, a lot of grant money to be able to work between them and the state to be able to take care of this, or it would have cost more money than what it cost. So please come forward.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. This idea that this project has taken over 20 years to happen, on the brownfield side of things, that's where I work for the Department of Toxic Substances Control, Office of Brownfields. It takes time because as much as we want land to be revitalized and to be used and to be returned to the community for useful things like parks and homes, safety is really important for us. It's the most important thing because it's a core principle of our environmental justice focus, that we want these homes to be built here, we want these parks, but we want them to be safe first and foremost for everyone who lives here, everyone who plays here, everyone who learns here. Those are very important principles. It's such an honor to be here today with our grantee, the Community Housing Development Corporation, and their partner, Eden Housing. I remember reading their application when they told their story of their vision for this land and what they wanted to achieve, for their community. It's part of their charter. It's what they do. We wanted to be part of that. We read that application, and it was a no-brainer for us. We're like, they hit all the points. They're eligible. We need to get behind this project. Over the past few years, using our funding, I think it was a little over $400,000. Our project manager, who is here today, Parag, are you here? Can you stand up and give a wave to the audience? So, I want to give a shout out to our project managers. We have a tough job. People bring us in, and there's so much going on, and we have to move our project managers and our toxicologists and our geologists. And we're scientists and engineers. We want to think. We really want to do our science experiments, and we really want to understand everything. And that does cause some frustration. But it is wonderful that the timing for this project worked out so well. Our project manager, recently oversaw the removal of over 900 tons of contaminated soil from this site. It's all gone, and we are on the cusp of giving that final approval. Just the paperwork needs to be sorted for the no further action letter. And this happens because all of us are working together. So many people have brought that up today, and that's really what it comes down to. Somebody saw this old gas station. They had a dream. After that dream, they had an idea. Then they had a conversation. Then they had a meeting. Then they had 100 meetings. And they had 200 meetings. And they had 300 meetings. We all know what it's like, right? With bankers, with investors, with elected officials, and with us as well. And I know that maybe part of those hundreds and hundreds of conversations, several hundred would have been with Parag and DTSC. But what we're the most proud of is how everyone has come together, in over time in this place to create and bring to this community these 43 homes for families, for people who need it the most. And it's done keeping the principles of social justice in mind, keeping the principles of environmental justice in mind. And it takes an organization like the Community Development Housing Corporation, and I want to say it right, Community Housing Development Corporation, because I was almost there, and Eden Housing, who has that vision to bring pollution to possibility. And that's why we're here, that's why we do what we do, and that's why it's such an honor to be here today with you in this celebration. Thank you so much for having me.
The next person coming up is special to me because she moved into a role that has a lot of influence on the Western region. And fortunately, me and Linda are part of the NeighborWorks group, and their vision that they have is based on community. Their founding was based on community. And the efforts of what we're doing are reinforced by their support that they give us in our day-to-day operations, in our lending, in our training, a whole bunch of things that they give us to keep us. Linda, I think we both were in exemplary status, so they do things to keep you. Yeah. So I'm gonna bring up Lisa Hazagawa.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Don and Linda, for inviting me. NeighborWorks America were 45 years old, and we were created by an act of Congress, and we get direct congressional appropriations to be able to invest in the great work of organizations like Eden and CHDC. Eden and CHDC are really a part of a network of 250 organizations that have to go through this intense rating and do a lot of work to get the core general operating support that we give to them every year. So there's 21 NeighborWorks organizations in California, and we invest about $10 million, over $10 million a year. But what they do with that $10 million investment is to turn that into $1.9 billion of investment, and that's just in 1 year. And so, as one of your last speakers, I've been sitting here listening to everybody's story, every little piece of the story. It's really like a novel, right? It's not a short story. It's definitely a saga, right? Of effort. Everyone played their part. I feel so many people's hands, bringing us, whether it was Fred Jackson or whether it was Dorothy Mae Richardson. Dorothy Mae Richardson is we like to say, is the founding mother of NeighborWorks America. She was a local activist in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who saw things happening in her community that she felt was wrong. People were from outside of the neighborhood, money and resources from outside of the community were fueling displacement of families who had been there for a very long time. So NeighborWorks America was created with her vision of what she wanted to see happen locally in Pittsburgh. In a Black neighborhood in Pittsburgh, she had that spark of a vision similar to the story here in Richmond. I feel like I hear the story of Dorothy Mae Richardson. And really it is about that community self-determination, that persistence, understanding the legacy of a neighborhood and a place, and making sure that regardless of administration, regardless of the changes in elected officials, that organizations like CHDC are gonna be here no matter what. Organizations like Dorothy Mae Richardson, the leaders, really want to see change in their neighborhood no matter what, even if it takes 22 years. So again, we are congressionally chartered nonprofit. So some people might say, what does that mean? It means that our board members are the bank regulators. So the FDIC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, HUD, thank you very much, Secretary Adrian Todman, and the Office of the, did I say OCC already? And the National Credit Union Association. So the 5 bank regulating entities are our board members. And so we're sort of a quasi-governmental organization, but it is wonderful. I was in DC for 20 years, so I got a chance to cross paths with Buffy Wicks, also with Gustavo when he was over at HUD. And so, I came home to California, Southern California, where I grew up, but I did live in Oakland for a little while, so the Bay Area is also near and dear to my heart. Came here to lead the Western region. So the Western region of NeighborWorks America goes from Montana down to Texas, out to the Pacific Islands, up to Alaska. So I live in airports, but I love to be able to come to events like this, to be able to see that local connection, that the result of decades of investment and persistence to really try to make things like Legacy Court a reality. So thank you to everybody here in this room for the part that you played in making this story a complete one, and I can't wait to come to the grand opening. So congratulations to everyone, and thank you so much to Dawn, who has been leading Black Wealth and Asset Building Initiative for NeighborWorks America. They are part of a national network. For Linda, for all of your national leadership at the state level, at the local level, Linda is known nationally, as well as Dawn, for their work. So sometimes I think that humble local leaders that have national impact, sometimes their national story isn't always known or isn't always told. So I just wanted to thank the both of you for all of your leadership. And it's wonderful to be able to be here at things like this today, because sometimes we're behind the scenes. And so I appreciate it. Thank you.
So Gustavo mentioned that he's on the tax credit allocation committee, which is always a great thing. Unfortunately, we don't have enough tax credits to go around. We're oversubscribed 6-1 in California, but we did get lucky and win the lottery on this particular project. And we're fortunate that we have, as we only have a few more speakers, we don't have 22 for 22 years, so that's, you should be grateful. But we would be remiss if we did not thank our biggest investors in this project. We were very fortunate that we secured 9% credits, and that Silicon Valley Bank, is it First Citizens Bank, DBA, Silicon Valley Bank, is our investor on this project. This is one of many projects we've done with the bank, and we're glad that they have survived and their brand is still with us. And they are investing $27 million in this project. So Debbie, if you'd like to say a few words, we'd appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Debbie Koski, and I lead the California Affordable Housing Lending Team at First Citizens Bank, and we were indeed Silicon Valley Bank until a couple of years ago. But I'm so grateful to be here today celebrating the groundbreaking with all of you. We're here at church today, which was a little unexpected. I'm sure glad to be drying inside. But I was thinking about how we're here in church, but there's a lot of faiths represented. So the holidays are approaching. Maybe you celebrate Christmas. Maybe you celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. Maybe you celebrate the solstice. Something I love about the holidays is all of these celebrations have in common a reflection on light and darkness, whether you're lighting a Christmas tree, whether you're lighting candles. And when I think about affordable housing work and every amazing human in this room that accomplished this together, each of you is a beacon of light. You are the light in the darkness. And whether you're shining that light in Sacramento, whether you're in North Richmond, whether you're in DC, whether you're at DTSC, whether you're at a bank, we're all doing this work. So it's truly an honor to be here at this holiday season. So as a banker, First Citizens Bank provided a $26 million construction loan and a $5 million permanent mortgage to Legacy Court, and then we were also the investor. So a shout out to my colleague Neil Drum there in the back. So for over 100 years, First Citizens Bank has been a trusted financial partner, helping families and businesses thrive. And we have an affordable housing team of more than 40 people nationally now. So we've gotten big, and we invest $1 billion in affordable housing nationally. I'm really proud of that work and so proud of all of you. So thank you for the opportunity to shine my light alongside you.
Somebody once asked me to explain the tax credit program in English some language that anybody could understand. I'm like, well, it kind of goes like this. The federal government awards tax credits to all the states. You hear the federal government, so Congressman Garamendi is a huge champion, and each of the states gets their tax credits. And groups like Eden, well, we can't really use tax credits because CHDC and we're nonprofits. So we need to sell those tax credits. So basically, we have a big bucket of potential money that we sell to corporations, and a corporation comes in and they put a bunch of money in that bucket, and we carry that money over to this project, and we invest that money into building housing. And in exchange for that, we keep our housing affordable for 55 years. But in our case, we like it to be permanent. And so there's always these people in the middle helping us assemble the folks who invest in the bucket, and that is Todd Fabian in this case and the National Equity Fund. They created one of the first tax credit funds in the country as part of the Local Initiative Support Corporation, and they have been committed to community development for as long as I have been doing this work, which is like a wicked long time at this point. They literally were investing in projects I was doing in Boston before I moved here. So Todd is here from NEF today, and we're really grateful for their long-standing partnership, not just at this project, but with everything we do.
Well, thank you, everybody. It's a real honor to be here. 22 years. It's inspirational and a little crazy. We come into these projects as an equity investor kind of towards the end. We're the last piece of the puzzle that they go out there and find the financing for. So we've been in this for 6 months. So yes, it's a sprint. It's a sprint for us. We're happy to get to the finish line. And it's very complicated, as Linda so quickly explained the tax credit program. It is more complicated than that. And you can't do it without a really sophisticated staff. So Don, Linda, your staffs are awesome. This project has 10 different sources of financing. And you bring all these players on these closing calls, and Max in the back, and he's like an artist. You have to just get everything together right at the right time. So he's our little Picasso in the back. But Honestly, I wouldn't be here without my equity partners. So yes, First Citizens Bank, and I will get that down. So Debbie and Neil, thank you for trusting us with $23 million. They earmarked this for this project. They wanted to be in this project because we go through a lot of different projects, and they circled this project, and they wanted their $23 million to be invested here in Richmond on this project. So thank you for that. And I have to thank my team in the back who came from Portland, Rena Bramblett, and Lisa Decker goes out there, and they actually do all the hard work. So thank you all, and we'll see you in about a year and a half.
Before we bring up our final speaker, I want to put a shout out to the Kyle Foundation. And I don't know if anyone's here from the Kyle Foundation. We invited them, but they went through so many different administrative people over the 20-something years that it became more of academics for them. But they still left $1 million in the project for, I would say, at least 15 of those 20 years till we could get everything together. A non-housing philanthropic corporation entity that basically came and saw the vision that we were trying to do. And you talk a lot about patient capital. I call that pretty patient. And basically never giving up on us to do it. They could have called our loan a long time ago if they wanted to, but they believed in the vision. And so, hopefully, we're able to reach other partners like that have resources that could maybe not have it in for 22 years, but at least, a couple years. But anyway, I needed to say that because that was the land assemblage was very important, and we couldn't have done that without that. And back to the community, North Richmond has been blessed with two really strong neighborhood councils and municipal advisory councils. And we have a person here that's going to speak as a resident, but also part of the neighborhood council in North Richmond, and she is into our second memorandum of understanding of what we're going to do in North Richmond. So we're building on what we've done before, and we're moving to the next phase. But Princess, if you could come up and have a few words. That's going to be our stuff.
Oh my gosh. Hey y'all, okay? Glad to be the last speaker. But yeah, I'm just a regular schmegular girl from North Richmond who started picking up trash and building gardens in my community. And I've been in community with CHDC for so long, I don't even remember. But I do remember hosting one of my very first largest community events in CHDC's community room at your office. So thank you for having me. My name is Princess Robinson, she, her pronouns. I am an executive director at Richmond Land. It's a member-based organization, member-based community land trust that collectively organizes around property and land acquisitions, land development, and affordable housing to create community-controlled assets permanently. I'm a longtime Richmond resident and North Richmond native. And I've also been in my community for the last 10 years advocating for alternative solutions towards a thriving and healthy community. I have witnessed the growth of CHDC, increasing our housing stock and providing home ownership opportunities to our community right here in North Richmond. Seeing and witnessing the vision become a reality. I'm so glad to be here celebrating this moment with you all, and to all who have supported and stayed committed through this groundbreaking moment. I commend and honor you, and I hope that one day I aspire to be like Dan and Richmond Land aspires to be like CHDC one day.
All right, so we're finally at the end.
Yes, we are.
But we do have to thank the project staff.
A lot of people.
A lot of people. Okay, yeah. By name, Bear Malinoff, Carol Kaur, Joanna Griffith, Norma Thompson, Max Heininger, Cynthia, I can't do Cynthia's last name too long, Aruna Doda Panini, Tammy Strauss, and anybody who did anything anywhere at Eden Housing and CHDC. Raise your hands. They're all in the back.
Yeah.
Shane.
Yeah.
It took 2 villages to get this one
Yes, it
off the
did.
ground,
Yes, it
so
did.
we do want to say thank
Yeah.
you. Oh, and Inman. Inman
Inman
is here
Rouse.
too from NeighborWorks.
Yep. And the group that put this whole thing together, will you raise your hands, like Janie and the rest of the group? Planning to be outside and inside at the same time. Quite an accomplishment.
And so really, thank you. I saw this, a family showing love towards each other, and I thought, yep, that's pretty much this marriage between CHDC and Eden. We are blessed to be part of this partnership.
Yep.
I know it has changed my life, definitely for the better, to be in this for the long haul and
Yep.
to change the world one corner at a time, and we are changing a lot of corners, Don.
It's the reason why it's here today. This is where it's supposed to be. Faith, blessings, all that means what we're putting our whole careers on and what we're putting our faith in for our community to be better.
So thank you to everybody who's done all of this to help us make this possible. And if we could ask the dignitaries to come up, we're not going to make you go to the site and shovel in the rain. We're going to let you do the victory stance.
Thank you, everybody.